Hey soccer fans, this is Nick and welcome back to the Feed the Fire podcast. On today's show, I'm going to let you in on all the updates and additions and changes and new features we're going to be doing here on Glass House Soccer and on the Feed the Fire podcast. We also are going to talk about the new, almost officially announced signing in Kellyn Acosta and what he's going to bring to the Chicago Fire team. And then we'll wrap up the show looking at their preseason recent results out in California and, of course, our little lightning round transfer tracker at the end of the show. So make sure you stay tuned. Hey soccer fans, welcome back to the Feed the Fire podcast. Once again, I'm your host Nick, and we are talking Chicago Fire soccer. But first, all of the new Feed the Fire podcast and Glass House Soccer YouTube channel updates that are coming your way. We have relaunched our Facebook page, so my apologies if anyone suddenly could not click into that page, but go search up again Glass House Soccer. We have starting to add more content than we had before already. New Facebook page. We are going to be launching an Instagram account. Got a little trouble with Instagram because I used the Glass House Soccer name, not my real name, and now they think I'm some kind of spam bot, artificial selling robot thing. Anyway, we're going to figure that out, so be on the lookout for some Instagram stuff. Also, you can still always find me on Twitter at Glass House Soccer. No second E, thank you, character limits. DMs are open, or you can email me, glasshouseSoccer@gmail.com. So those are the initial basics. The other big news, they got me. They talked me into it. They sold it to me at the Gutierrez-Brady meet and greet. I am now a season ticket holder of the Chicago Fire. So if you are at a game, if you want to meet up, if you want to just pick my brain about things, you want to tell me what I should talk about, message me. I'll come see you at a tailgate or maybe halftime on the concourse, right? I'm up in section 205, even though I got the season tickets. I'm still a little cheap, so I got to, only sprung for the 200 level. But yes, and I also will be using this opportunity to kind of keep everyone up to date as to what's going on from the season ticket holder perspective and what's going on from the club. What announcements are we getting that maybe you might not be hearing till days and weeks later? So another little bit, hopefully a little bit of insider information. Insider-ish, not real journalism insider, right? But the big news, the big thing coming up for Feed the Fire, for Glass House Soccer, and I have to say thank you to all of our viewers, listeners, everyone who follows and interacts with us on social media, especially on Twitter, because the Chicago Fire Football Club, the club, reached out to me on Twitter and said, hey, we're doing this jersey launch party on Thursday night to reveal the new kit. We'd love to have you there and hype it up and promote it on social media. So that's the big announcement, that I will be attending the new kit reveal party hosted by DeMarcus Beasley. I don't know what I'm more excited for. That I'm going to be in the same room as one of my favorite all-time soccer players, or that I'm on the inside track with this new jersey reveal. I'm not sure what I'm getting more about, but it's going to be a lot of fun. The Fire are really putting a lot of effort into it, reaching out to a lot of different content creators and really trying to push this. So should be a wonderful event. They have encouraged me and content creators to broadcast live from the event. So be on the lookout for some Facebook Live or Twitter Live videos. Be on the lookout for tons of photos coming out Thursday night on all my social media accounts. Make sure you're following, subscribing, liking for all of that. Honestly, I'm when I saw the message, I'm like, oh crap, what's the club reaching out to me? Maybe it's a season ticket thing. Did they not like something I said in the last podcast? But no, all good reasons. And honestly, I haven't been this nervous about trying to pick out an outfit since my wedding. I'm giddy. That's the only way I can describe it. Fired up, giddy, excited. Really looking forward to just seeing everyone who's going to be there, from content creators to Fire staff and employees to DeMarcus Beasley. I'm going to probably use the phrase run DMB way too many times in the next week, so I'm going to apologize for that up front, but really looking forward to seeing him live, and of course, the return to red, what it's all about. Hashtag return to red, the new kit. So stay on the lookout for all of that. But again, none of that happens without all of you viewers and listeners interacting, listening, clicking, sharing, sending messages and likes. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you 1,000 times. All right, let's get into the real Chicago Fire content here for the night. The Kellyn Acosta hype. He is all but announced with the Chicago Fire. There were photos of him at Chicago Fire training before any of these, real reporting on his move to Chicago happened, and those were quickly taken down, but not before some real hawk-eyed Fire fans spotted him in the background. And by the way, little sidebar here, the blurry Acosta, the blurry Kellyn photo movement that's going on right now in Chicago Fire Twitter might be some of the most fun that I've ever had on that social media platform, at least with the Chicago Fire fans. It is fantastic to see how everyone's profile picture has been flipped over to blurry Kellyn, and I was happy to join in and throw that onto my logo for the time being. Does anyone know when we're going to take it down? When can we go back to other profile pictures? Or is this we're stuck with it for the season at least, or at least until they announces it maybe? I don't know. What's the protocol? Somebody out there, let me know the protocol and how long we're keeping these profile pictures up. Not that I'm in any hurry to take it down. But that has been so much fun. Also, for Tom Bogert to kind of get involved on the side with it as well, taking pictures of a tent where Kellyn Acosta was rumored to be at the Coachella Invitational. So shout out to Tom Bogert, who's just having as much fun with it as all of us are while he's still trying to do work. But again, back to the actual transfer. Acosta is reported to be nearly done signing with the Chicago Fire. The deal is near completion. Don't know why I can't get all my adverbs out right now. But yeah, the deal's nearly done. All we're waiting is for that official announcement, similar to the Hugo Kuipers, or is it Hugo Kuiper, signing that we got announced earlier from the club. The club knows how to time these things, whether they want it to last or whether they want it to get quickly run through the next 24-hour news cycle. The club knows when to time these announcements, so I'm sure they're just waiting for the right moment to do it and the right time to reveal it along with the kit launch. Getting into actually Kellyn Acosta himself. What is he going to do for this club? What kind of player is he? Who is he? Where is he from? For anyone who hasn't been following MLS, USMNT, or anything outside the broader Chicago Fire realm, let's get into it then, shall we? Everyone's excited. Everyone on social media, everyone I'm talking to outside of social media who's a Fire fan. There's even guys at my church who, kind of follow MLS a little bit, and then they meet me, and they're like, oh, maybe I'll pay attention. Even they were coming up to me in church on Sunday, hey, dude, Kellyn Acosta's coming to the Chicago Fire. There's a real buzz around this signing. This is completely different than the energy and buzz in a DP number 9 and Hugo Kuiper's coming over. This is a different kind of signing. This is not that we're really going out and finding this big name guy. This isn't we're really going out and finding the missing piece. This is just the complementary piece who can bring it all together, a well-known commodity, someone that American soccer fans have grown to enjoy watching and identify with, right? This is a real different kind of signing in that, and it's really, really cool that Kellyn's coming to the Chicago Fire. Now, here's what you're getting with Kellyn Acosta, right? He's a USMNT veteran, 58 caps. He's an MLS Cup champion last season with LAFC, or 2 seasons ago with LAFC. He's one of the top free agents, if not the top free agent in Major League Soccer this offseason. A lot of people were talking about the free agent pool, and maybe this is kind of why I wasn't so high on it at first, because, Kellyn Acosta, the top free agent in MLS this year. I'm like, well, I guess that's not saying much for MLS, or there weren't too many other real desirable free agents out there. But the more I look into this, the more I'm really liking this move. Kellyn is also one of the best players, at least on the international level. Maybe I didn't watch him too closely with Colorado, but definitely one of the best players at getting under the skin of the opposition. I think it was in the Gold Cup against Mexico or another squad where how he just delayed the opposing team from taking a penalty kick for probably 2 to 3 minutes, just on his own. This had nothing to do with other people rushing the ref or moving around, or this, just himself on his own, in working the referee, in standing on the penalty spot, in working the guy who's going to take the kick, and then their opposing captain, scuffing up the penalty spot. He probably killed 2 to 3 minutes all on his own, and that player went on to absolutely make a mess of that PK, did not score against the U.S., and of course then there's the statistics that back it up, that for like every so many seconds after a minute, the odds go down of making a penalty kick so much. So, long story short, the longer you wait to take a PK, or the longer you're delayed from taking a PK, the less of a chance you have of making it. So he's just doing all these things. He's bringing all that experience and all those intangibles to the Chicago Fire. But what does this signal for the team? Now, first of all, there's signals from the front office, who have been criticized, and rightly so, for not being able to get deals done, especially in interleague deals, intra-league deals within the MLS, right? And that was one of the goals that this front office said going into the offseason, that when Heights and Pelzer got back, they articulated that we need to do better at finding talent within the MLS, finding guys who maybe didn't fit on other teams, finding guys who might be poised to have a better season, and bring them into the Chicago Fire. So you saw that a little with Barlow and Gutman and Chase Gasper, but the fact that you did it with Kellyn Acosta is a huge sign that the Chicago Fire front office is getting deals done. Now, we don't know the terms of the Acosta deal, so maybe they had to overpay, and I would anticipate they probably overpaid a little bit, and we don't know how many years he's getting. At least I haven't seen any reporting on it yet. But that's something to keep an eye on if you really want to wait and judge the deal, for sure. But the fact is, they got business done within and without of the league this season. So, again, sidebar here, I'm not going to say we have to go out and apologize to George Heights and Sebastian Pelzer, though a lot of people are doing that, and that's fine. But they're starting to earn the benefit of the doubt a little bit, at least in the fact that they're getting the deals done. Now, if these guys come in and are total flops, then maybe we need to look at the scouting, maybe we need to look at the coaching with a little bit more scrutiny than just the front office making the deals. All right, so who are the Fire getting in Kellyn Acosta? He's a 28-year-old defensive midfielder. He's turning 29 in July, in the middle of the season. So he's about the prime of his career, maybe as a D-mid, maybe a little bit on the tail end, starting the tail end, but he's had some minutes over the last few seasons, so it doesn't look like he's been slowing down. We'll get into that in a second. He came up with the FC Dallas Academy system, turned pro in 2013 with Dallas. He was traded to Colorado in 2018 for Dom Badji, then transferred to LAFC for $1.1 million in GAM in 2021. So he spent his entire career with Major League Soccer. Again, 58 appearances with the United States men's national team. But here's a little trivia I didn't know about him. His father is Japanese. His mother is Puerto Rican and African American. So he was eligible to play internationally for Japan, Puerto Rico, and the United States. I'm thrilled that he chose the red, white, and blue. Now, what has he accomplished in his career? Supporter Shield and U.S. Open Cup in 2016 with Dallas. MLS Cup and Supporter Shield with LAFC in 2022. He won the CONCACAF U17 championship with the U.S. Youth National Team back in 2011. And with the U.S. Senior Team, 2 Gold Cups, 2017 and 2021. Won the 1920 Nations League, and also appeared for the United States in the last World Cup. That's a great list of accomplishments for a guy coming to the Chicago Fire, without a doubt. Also a practitioner of the dark arts, as they say, and we talked a little bit about that in his stalling the PKs. One of those guys where you hate to play against him, but you love that he's on your team. But really, he can control the midfield. And now that he's going to be on the team, again, waiting for him to be officially announced, get that pen to paper. I'm going to, couch everything I say in those terms, just in case something falls through crazy. See Duncan McGuire for that. But coming in, he's going to have the ability to really control that midfield. A lot of people are calling him a box-to-box midfielder. I'd say that's a fair assessment, not a label that I want to use, but I think it will be more and more applicable as the season goes on, considering who he's playing with. But it also gives the Fire some flexibility to move Gaston Jimenez, to move Federico Navarro if they really need to. They should be moving Gaston Jimenez because he's the older guy. He's the guy with the higher salary. See if they can get rid of him. Maybe there's still a team in Paraguay or Argentina that really, really wants him or thinks, a mid-table team that can get him cheap, maybe. Who knows? But that's what Kellyn Acosta is bringing from kind of like a resume perspective and an intangible perspective. But an on-the-pitch perspective. what is he going to bring to the Chicago Fire team that, in my opinion, really does help move the needle? You've heard me say it the last several episodes. Does the Gutman signing, the Gasper signing, and the Barlow signing, does that move the needle? Are the Fire, with those guys, going to go from 13th to 7th in the standings? No, they're not. With Kuipers, are they going to go from 13th to 7th? Maybe. I figured with Kuipers, they'd be right in that wild card mix. But now with a proven winning defensive midfielder in Acosta, adding on Kuipers, adding on all those MLS transfers and moves in, and then whatever they identify in the summer window. Yes, this moves the needle. I went on the Designated Players podcast doing a Chicago Fire preview with those guys. By the way, great show. Go find them, listen to them. And we all said, like, the Fire, with Acosta, with Kuipers, with the recent additions, and with Gutierrez and Brady having another year, with Haile Selassie having another year, with Chris Mueller coming back from injury, flexibility with the strikers, signing guys in the back, Aragoni, Sulquist, getting Tehran back in a little bit from injury and hopefully well rested. The Fire are probably going to be like in that 6-7 spot if everything works out. At least on paper, they're in that like 6-7 spot right now. If everything breaks their way and things break poorly for some other teams, maybe they make that jump to the 5-6. If everything falls apart, then again, you're looking at another 10 to 13th kind of finish for the Chicago Fire. So this signing, back to Kellyn Acosta, this signing moves the needle for me. He is a reliable player. For the last 3 seasons, he has had more than 20 appearances in the regular season. Doesn't count postseason, doesn't count Leagues Cup, doesn't count anything else. This is just regular season. 20 appearances, and I think, or more, at least 20 appearances every season, and I'm thinking at least 15 to 18 starts of those 20 regular season appearances. He is definitely not an offensive player. In fact, his expected goals last season was 0.6, and his expected assists last season was 1.1. So he is a defensive midfielder to the core. But where he really excels is his passing, especially in the short game. He can take corner kicks. We saw him take a lot of them if Carlos Vela wasn't doing it, or if it was on the other side of the pitch. He can get involved in the set pieces from a delivery standpoint, or short passing. If you want to run a play, something like that, he can get involved there. His regular season passing percentage for his MLS career is about 82%, but over his last 4 seasons, it's been about 86%. So he's a very good passer of the ball, and where he excels, according to FBref.com's statistics, he really excels in that short passing. So very controlling of the midfield, excellent link-up play, and excellent distribution. I'm very excited. I was excited, but after seeing how well he plays these short balls around, I'm very excited to see him pairing up with Brian Gutierrez and seeing how these guys can work together. Move the ball forward. Again, rarely gets into attacking position, so his value is more in that control, in that pace, tempo, link-up play kind of thing. Definitely an improvement and an upgrade over Gaston Jimenez and Federico Navarro, and, as I said, will move the needle. So it's a great signing. Got to give a little credit to the front office. I wasn't too high on it when it was a rumor. I thought they were overpaying for an aging veteran, but the more I see it, the more I like what he can bring to the Chicago Fire club, considering now all the other pieces that have been put around him. So where do the Fire go from here? Straight to the playoffs, right? No. Where do the Fire go from here? As far as their roster construction goes, they do need to move Shabilko. They do need to move Suke. At least those are the 2 players that everyone thinks are going to have to be moved, or that are going to be moved in order to get into roster compliance with the right number of players, right number of senior spots, supplemental spots, all that sort of thing. Go find the Men in Red show. Alex Calabresi put a nice graphic together. He really outlines it as if you were really looking at a roster chart. So check that out. But what's anticipated is that Suke and Shabilko are going to be moved, with Jairo Torres and the Chicago Fire agreeing to a mutual termination of the contract. The Fire did not use their once a season buyout, so the assumption is Suke is going to get his green card, so he'll take up a domestic roster spot in MLS. They'll be able to move him. His salary isn't so bad where it's prohibitive for a lot of teams. It is a little high, but you're getting a guy who's an experienced veteran of the game and now has some MLS experience. It's possible he has moved within MLS somewhere. Unfortunately, no teams really come to mind because most teams, when they're looking at international player, well, he'd be a domestic player, but when you're looking at international talent, you're looking for more attack-minded players. But maybe CK is part of the rebuild in Portland. Who knows? But Shabilko is definitely the highest salary that you'd want to try to move. I think he's just over $1 million owed. So that buyout would eliminate that and hopefully get him, open up some spots for the other strikers on the roster. But that's kind of what we're looking for. I don't expect the Chicago Fire to add another player, at least another high caliber, high impact signing. I really think, even though everyone's calling for a great attacking winger now, we need another young DP winger since we got rid of Jairo Torres. We need another young DP winger. I really don't think the front office is going to be doing that. I think if they did at this point, it would be a very rushed signing, definitely an overpayment. You're also another 2 weeks, not even, from the start of the season. So bringing in a guy now would not have the time to gel. Also, I really think the Chicago Fire are very happy with their offseason. I know I am. And why try to rush things and push it in? Also, see how they can play. See how they do. See how they start the season. And if there are holes to fill or needs to be addressed, then they can go out and do it in the summer transfer window. I'm sure they're already working some of their channels. At least I hope so. I hope they've learned. Additionally, you got to be prepared in case the injury bug hits this team. We saw Carlos Turan. He was out with knee surgery. God forbid something happens to Salquist or Chihos. Then you have to slide Pineda back into the center back position unless they go out and sign someone, and then you're losing a lot of your depth centrally in your defense from your center backs and your defensive midfielders there. I actually saw someone on Reddit say that they would rather see Pineda slide back into that center back position instead of Wyatt Olmsberg. Now, I would love to see a defensive midfield. If you're going to play two D-mids, I would love to see Pineda and Acosta next to each other and then have Chihos and Olmsberg start as your center backs until Salquist can kind of get his legs under him with the club and with MLS. I know, I think there's pictures of him out on the training pitch now. I think the visa cleared, but give him some time, right? Give him some time to adapt. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. That's kind of what I'm thinking the club is thinking as how they want to address an open U22 spot. But again, their priorities, get into roster compliance, see what's going on with the team, and then address any needs or maybe make that move to put them over the top in the summer transfer window. Regardless, this may be the most promising offseason in the last 5 years. So with that, I am going to take a quick water break here. Sponsor break. Remind everyone that the Feed the Fire podcast is brought to you by Skira Icelandic Spring Water, available at your local 7-Eleven. Icelandic for clear, Skira water comes from a spring in a government-protected nature preserve in Iceland with naturally low mineral content. This isn't your average water. Clearly, pun intended, it's one of the best. And I don't know, Skira, can you overnight me a case of water, and or do you have mini bottles that I can bring to the Chicago Fire jersey reveal and maybe just kind of like leave them out at some of the tables or hand them out to some people? Let me know, Skira. I know your reps are listening. Definitely, let's make it happen. All right, we are moving on now to a preseason update of the Chicago Fire. They are out in California at the Coachella Invitational Tournament, the CIT. They played their first match against Austin FC on February 7th with a 1-0 victory in that one. Thank you, draft pick Lawrence Wooten, signing and scoring for the club. Great first look for him. Solid performance. Not too much reporting, not too much coming out of that one. I don't think it was broadcast or streamed, as opposed to their second match where they lost 3-1 to LAFC. Now, the Fire did score first, and it was a really good combination play between Gutierrez and Gutman, and then Gutman gets a good low cross, 4 or 5 feet off the ground. Fabian Herbers, our boy Ferbers, with the diving header to score. And by the way, I'm just going to keep calling him Ferbers. I started saying that last season. I hope it sticks. I hope it becomes a thing, especially because broadcasters don't know how to pronounce half the players' names, especially on the Fire. Marian Haile Selassie. No, Marin Haile Selassie. Fabian Herbers. No, Ferbers. Just call him Ferbers. That's all I want. I hope it sticks. If it doesn't, that's fine. Wow, I digressed on that one. But really, in this game, it was the Fire had a really good, say, first half hour or so. We saw that Lincoln play. We saw the goal. We saw some other chances. But then defense collapsed late. Gaston Jimenez did not have himself a good game. And LAFC comes back and scores 3 goals. There's a reason that they've been one of the best clubs in MLS since they started, and we saw it on display even in this preseason Coachella Invitational Tournament. I try not to take too much out of these preseason games. It looks like the Fire are putting a lot more effort into the Coachella tournament than they did some of the other preseason games. Not to say they didn't put in the effort. It actually looked like they had a little bit more effort and a little bit more focus coming into the season. But a game like this shows that there's still a gap between the Chicago Fire and clubs like LAFC. Hopefully one that Kellyn Acosta can help close. I know he will improve the squad from a defensive perspective, and at least in this LAFC game, that's what the Fire needed. To wrap up their preseason, the Chicago Fire will take on Minnesota United on Wednesday, February 14th. Heart Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, Fire fans. And then they will take on Portland on Saturday, February 17th. Moving along into our final segment here. Ooh, maybe I'll get a show in under half hour. Haven't done that in a while. Our transfer tracker, taking a look at what's going on around the league, so you can banter with other fans. Real Salt Lake have acquired midfielder Matt Crooks from Middlesbrough, 30-year-old English native who's under contract through the 2026 season. So bringing in a veteran presence, a guy who is probably going to make a real impact in his first season here in MLS. The Rapids have transferred Brian Galvan to Banfield. Here's the big one. Chicago Fire and Jairo Torres mutually terminate contract. So it is officially announced. According to the press release here on MLSsoccer.com, this move opens a designated player slot for Chicago. Midfielder Xherdan Shaqiri and striker Hugo Kaiper are the remaining DPs. Here's a quote. After many discussions with Jairo and the coaching staff, we all agreed that this was the best decision for the player and the club at this time, Sporting Director George Heitz said in a release. I'd like to thank Jairo for his contributions to the Chicago Fire and wish him all the best in the future, end quote. Torres, 23 years old, originally joined the Fire as a young DP in February 2022 from Liga MX side Atlas FC. He produced 0 goals and 2 assists in 36 matches, including 14 starts, never quite meeting his reported $6 million transfer fee. That's the understatement of the offseason. Now he'll reportedly join Liga MX side FC Juarez. So no one had any bad feelings toward Jairo Torres. The dude just didn't produce. Long story short, he didn't produce. Whether it was injury, whether it was system, whether it was mentality, whether it was playing in the MLS, or a combination of all of them, he did not produce, but he's still young enough where he can have a very successful career ahead of him, and everyone that I've seen, including myself, wishes him well. San Jose Earthquakes acquire forward Amal Pellegrino, so they are trying to reload their offense a little bit. NYCFC loaned Thiago Andrade to a Chinese club. He is heading out to Shenzhen Peng City for the 2024 season. Last season, he was on loan in Brazil to Atlético Paranaense. So they've loaned him out a couple times. I don't know if they're trying to make money or have some sort of compliance issue there. I think it's just a money thing, maybe a positioning thing as well. Any of you NYCFC fans, let us know what's going on there. LAFC signed a familiar face in Edward Atuesta. He is being signed on loan from Palmeiras. Quakes also acquire goalkeeper Mikuláš Bieganski, so they're getting some backup keeper there. The other big news, Duncan McGuire returns to Orlando City after Blackburn Rovers move denied. So they had been trying to get a deal done. Duncan McGuire was on the plane over to England. He was in the air because the deal was supposed to be done. Then something happened, and they went from a full-blown transfer to let's do a loan. And then when they submitted the paperwork, they just hit save. They didn't actually hit submit. and they missed the deadline by a few minutes, and the league would not allow it to go through. They would not forgive the mistake. So, heartbreaking for Duncan McGuire, but I'm happy we get to watch him in the MLS for at least the time being. Orlando City also have signed Slovenian defender David Bricalo, excuse me. That was one of the easier ones. How did I mess that one up? David Bricalo. So bolstering up their back line in addition to signing Robin Janssen to a contract extension. Also, the Hugo Kuipers deal was fully announced. And let's see, what else is going around? FC Dallas part ways with Jesus Jimenez, mutual parting of the ways there. Nashville SC signed homegrown Isaiah Jones, a midfielder. CF Montreal signs Joseph Martinez. There you go, that's the big news. If we didn't already know that from last episode. Houston signed Jan Gregus from Minnesota. Yeah, I think we're back into some of the stuff we covered from last week. So let's end this show with the official statement from the league on Hugo Kuipers here. Chicago Fire FC have a new designated player number 9, announcing Tuesday that they have acquired Hugo Kuipers, or Hugo Kuipers, from Belgian top flight side Ghent. He is under contract through 2026 with an option for 2027. All right, so we got him for this. You know what? If it sounded like you overpaid, if we got him for that long, that's fantastic. Kuipers, 26, arrives for a club record transfer fee of reportedly $12 million with another $2 million in add-ons, which surpasses the reported $7.5 million Chicago paid 2 years ago for Xherdan Shaqiri. If the entire reported financial package for Kuipers hits, he'd crack the top 5 most expensive signings in MLS history. Quote, "We're thrilled to officially welcome Hugo Kuipers to the club," Chicago Sporting Director George Heitz said in a release. "We've been very focused on acquiring a striker in the prime of their career with a proven track record of scoring goals in a very competitive league. Hugo has been one of the leading goal scorers in the Belgian First Division over the last few seasons, and despite receiving interest from other teams, he had a very strong desire to join the Fire and help us achieve our goal of becoming one of the top clubs in MLS." Wow. So they had to get him to buy in over other suitors. That's phenomenal. Kuipers, a former Belgian youth international striker, has 51 goals and 15 assists in 90 matches for Ghent, earning Belgian Pro League top scorer honors in 2022-23. His resume also includes stops at Olympiacos, Ajaccio in France, Mechelen in Belgium, and more. Also, we did a complete breakdown on Hugo Kuipers, my scouting report, positives and negatives. He's not a lock to be the Golden Boot winner here in MLS. There are drawbacks, so go back and listen to the last episode for all of that as well. In Chicago, Kuipers is expected to spearhead an attack that includes Shaqiri and U.S. youth international Brian Gutierrez as other standouts. The Fire's additional strikers include Greek youth international Yorgos Koutsias and off-season trade acquisition Tom Barlow. This deal would not have been possible without the continued commitment from ownership to invest heavily throughout all areas of the club, Heitz added. "We are confident that Hugo will be a game-changing addition to our team, and we look forward to having him in Chicago for the start of the 2024 season." End quote. Now, I've called out Heitz and Klopas for like fluff quotes and like front office managers speak, but when he says it with the caliber of player of Hugo Kuipers behind him, it actually sounds legitimate. Led by head coach Frank Klopas, Chicago returned to action February 24th at the Philadelphia Union. They're chasing a first Audi MLS Cup playoffs appearance since 2017. Why'd you have to add that? Why'd they have to throw that in as a dig? Jonathan Siegel, why would you do that to us, man? Why would you do that to us? All right, soccer fans, I'll let you get out of here for the night. Just over the 30-minute mark. Ugh! We'll get back to some quick hit podcasts and not drag it out too much for you, especially when the season gets rolling. But I want to thank you all. Remember to follow along on the newly relaunched Facebook page. Keep a lookout for some Instagram stuff, if I can ever get that account unlocked. But a lot more coming out on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, as I mentioned. So we appreciate the likes, the subscribes, sharing everything. But most of all, let's go Fire.